All right, friends. So today we have a very, very special guest. We have Miss Alicja Aratyn with us, who is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful dowser and healer. She had her initial education regarding dowsing in Poland, and then she shifted to Ontario, Canada, where she has a lot of training programs for the people, where she also offers a lot of variety of pendulums. So it is a real pleasure to have her on the show. I have been a witness to a lot of her incredible work. I welcome you, Miss Alicja.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to talk to your audience. When we talk about, yes?
You know, pretty recently, I heard you speaking something on wavelength. And then one night, my daughter, she was suffering from hiccups. And normally what I do is when somebody has a hiccup, I go to the solar plexus chakra and do some kind of sweepings and the hiccup stops. But this time I said, okay, because I was half asleep. So I said, okay, let me do the pendulum healing rather than, just getting up, making her get up and then physically doing it. I tried it, did not work. Then it occurred to me, why not I use the wavelength concept which you discussed? So what I did was I tried to find her wavelength, and when it said, yeah, yes, I have reached the right destination, then I said, just take the hiccup away, just take the negativity away and fill her with the pure light and love. And to my surprise, in about a minute and a half's time, it was all gone, thanks to you. So today we have a very special for our audience, healing with the white and the golden light pendulums. So it is all, the time is all yours. Please share some valuable inputs on this important topic, Ms. Alicja.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the wavelength is crucial. And when I came to Canada, and then when I came to Canada, I didn't speak English, so I was very kind of withdrawn and had my personal, very many problems with moving, generally speaking, legal problems when I came here. So, so it took me quite a while to be able to cross, for example, the border to US. And when I started to do that, and I went to their American Society convention, Dowser Society, I'm so sorry, Dowser Society convention, I realized that they dowse the way I've never seen. So I just quietly asked someone, why are you doing this that way? And they thought I'm a beginner, therefore they said, well, because you hold the pendulum over your hand to connect with you. And I'm thinking, why? When you hold the pendulum in your hand, you are already there. By holding your energies there, why do you have to hold it over the hand to connect with it? So that was first. And then I said, so you hold it whenever and you are connected with this person? And they said, yes. And I said, what about finding the wavelength? And they said, what do you mean? So 2 years later, when I finally found the courage to speak on their conference, and they always welcome new people with new topics, I started to talk about the wavelength, and it happened that nobody really knew about that. But really, it comes from very simple rule, which applies everywhere. Not only as above, so below, but also if you want to call me, you need to know my number. Otherwise, it's just pure accident if you will find it or not. Probably not, because there is millions and millions of telephone numbers around the world. So when people communicate spiritually with each other, what they do is they connect with the wavelength of this person. If you know the person, you bring it to your third eye mind or screen, And in the peacefulness, in the ocean of the universe, there is only one frequency which stands up kind of and say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and you connect with it because it vibrates the way you wanted to connect with. And the same if you want to connect with someone who you don't want to keep this person in mind, but because you want to focus on what you will do, but you still want to be firmly connected, to anchor the presence of this person, is to find a wavelength. So to find a wavelength, you hold it as close as possible to the pendulum, to the body of the pendulum, and you say, show me the frequency or the wavelength of Dr. Prabal. And then you slowly go up. And I'm making it up right now because Dr. Prabal's wavelength is different, and I will tell you in a moment why I say so. But let's say it's that one. Then we make those sliders on the string, which you can bring down and mark this wavelength, right? Yeah. Now you have this connection with this person, regardless of what. And you can think about many things, shopping for tomorrow or their liver or whatever. Of course, I'm making presumptions, but let's say, but you are still connected because you are on their wavelength.
Yes.
All right. So I have this phone with me, but I'm talking to the other person for a moment, and I say, do this, this, and this. I will be with you in a moment, but I'm still having you here because I'm connected, right? Yes. Only when someone's wavelength is 0, like yours is, all right? You see it moves here when I point at Dr. Prabal. You can hold it whenever, because your wavelength, if your wavelength is 0, then of course simple mathematics from the grade school will tell you that multiplying by 0 will always give you 0. Otherwise, if the wavelength is like this, for example, and you wanted to have a stronger movement, you can double it. You are still on the wavelength of this person, but because dowsing is like a music, it goes like this. So you are not at the first range, but you are on the second, but still at the same person. All right. So we can say a few things about the wavelength and advantage of having wavelength and working with different as we go through our meetings. But now I would like to go to presentation because, as people say in English and other languages, the picture is worth 1,000 words. Then I prepare the short presentation, and afterwards we will continue our discussion. So we'll see what we can add to this presentation, okay?
Sure. I'm just looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me share this screen with you. And one moment, I have to, I will use my iPad as a remote control, so it will be easier for us. All right, so we will talk today briefly, of course, because it's a very long topic, but let's talk briefly about healing with white and golden light. But before we will do that, I would like to present to you the importance and the few facts about white and gold light. If you, just in case, you would like to learn more, just this weekend, it happened that it will be this this coming weekend, August 12th and 4th, we will have 25% discount on all our online courses. So you can visit our website, intuitivedowsing.com, with the coupon code courses 2022, and you can browse there and find whatever you want. My cup of tea in dowsing, or in everything what I teach, is to connect science and spirituality, which means have this wonderful holistic approach to it. And therefore, we can quote Max Planck, whose first Institute of Physics is still operating in Austria. However, Max Planck is not with us anymore, who said anybody who has been seriously engaged in scientific work of any kind realizes that over the entrance of the gates of the Temple of Science are written the words, "Ye must have faith." So don't forget, I'm a reverend. I know that we represent different religious system, but still spirituality is what connects us all. And we should, in my opinion, respect all religions. So we have to have faith. We need to have faith in everyday life, in what we do. And dowsing is especially this kind of spiritual and scientific, actually, method, which is compatible with any method you use. You can balance chakras with them. You can work through 3 centers if someone follows Chinese system, and so on and so on. You can add dowsing, add pendulum to everything, because people from the beginning of time wanted to know what it is. And that is spiritual, that is an example of spiritual man who has the halo behind his head, which is a sign of spirituality, but he also has this atlas and compass because he wants to measure and know. So he wants to connect both levels of our existence, really. And then what does that mean that pendulum is a healing or therapeutic pendulum or not? If we look about the basic pendulum, and I did the Kirlian photography, which means aura photo of those pendulums, then if you see, if the pendulum is simply displayed on the table and nobody holds it, it is connected to nothing. It still releases some light because it is a matter, and matter is an expression of light condensed to the point that we can see it. So you see this color, which is really not very bright, but still not green, not blue as it is here, which means that this shape really releases some light. But when I hold the pendulum, the picture changes into this. You still see the shape, and you see how the light fills this shape. That's why I was so surprised that those people wanted to connect with pendulum while they were already there, because it shows the light here. The light comes from you and feels this, feels the object. The moment some of you probably studied or learn Reiki. In Reiki, in the first level, at least I teach people that the energy comes from the universe, first feels you, and then flows through you to other person, because it has to be pure cosmic energy, not your own energy, which is some kind of, to some point, infused by your own impurities, let's say. Okay. Yeah. Now, what is interesting here, are those small dots here, which you see, which is really this energy drops, which go back and forth to your hand, giving you the information, and from you sending your questions or your statements. The light above is pink, because whenever light is, love is, and love vibrationally operates on the pink color. So that's how we can see it. Now let's look at therapeutic pendulum. This is therapeutic pendulum called ISIS. It works with white light. And now let's see. So what you see here is that when I put the pendulum on the table, the background is a lot lighter, because this shape is based on sacred geometry. It's therapeutic. So it has to, the purpose is to release a lot more light than the pendulum, which just has to exist to answer your questions. And then when I will touch the pendulum, what happens here, that you see the shape, because shape is filled with light. You see the aura of this on the bottom, not without the reason. Our body is created this way, that everything is, well, more or less square or perpendicular, but our head is not really round, but it has the round shape on the top and on the bottom. And again, we can talk about it in next meeting, but nevertheless, you even see the tip of the pendulum here. Now the energy around it is more blue, indigo was here somewhere, and violet, just because the healing is a spiritual process. So the energies here are not the lower one, like yellow or orange, but those higher energies like violet and blue and indigo, those which connects you with the cosmic energy, or with God, or with God in your understanding according to your belief system, basically with creation forces which send you the energy down. Now we talked about white light. So what is the white light? Yeah. First of all, white light contains the whole spectrum of white light, which means there is everything in it, 7 colors of white light, which means visible spectrum of light. It's not light, it's white light. It means serenity, purity, and innocence, and also cosmic consciousness. What is interesting is that people who like wearing white wardrobe have no desire to gather anything. However, the person walks the spiritual path and continues at the same time be involved in other aspects of life, which means they will not be just out of here, completely, not present here, losing houses, losing businesses, losing everything because they are all there. It's not. When we have physical body, it means, as long as we have it, it means we need to be here and there. And that's the mastery, really, to master being in both at the same time.
Can I ask something here? Just a little. Yes,
absolutely.
There is a radiesthetic chart of colors, which when we buy a pendulum, which we try to see whether it is emitting the negative green or not. So similarly, there is a white on that particular chart. I was thinking that probably when we say that this is a pendulum which emits the white light, what we mean is that it emits that particular light, which on that particular chart says white. Now on the screen, you've mentioned that it contains the whole spectrum of white light. So
Yes.
I just wanted a clarification. What do you mean by it? Do you mean that the whole spectrum of the radiostatic color is what you're referring to?
Yes. Okay, so it has 7 colors of our chakras,
Yeah,
which is visible spectrum of light.
right.
Okay. Now, when you hold it over the body will call for specific vibration from those 7 colors. All right. And that's why we know that, for example, lungs operate on white. The blood operates on orange, and so on and so on. In my course, which is called The Mystery of Healing, we talk into details about it, which organ releases which color, so people can heal with the pendulum, which I will show you in a moment.
Okay.
So the fact that it's white light, it means those are my possibilities, all right? But I can extract just one vibration from it because my liver needs clearing or needs energy because it's below, it's under energized. Okay, so
Yes.
from the spectrum of white, it will be pulled only one energy, this one which your body calls for, because how it works is that the body radiates specific colors, and that's why when we have an aura photo, we normally have many colors. At least we should have many colors in it. However, people want to be only white or only blue or only something. Healthy body has many colors because it's balanced and they show themselves equally. But when something is under, which means it's ill, then it opens kind of a vortex. The vortex opens up and calls for this vibration. When I will come with the pendulum, which has white light, like Isis, for example, then it stops here and it says, oh, you need violet? Absolutely. I have violet, I can give it to you. And it starts to move into right. It is not your yes and your no. It moves in the direction of, to the right is giving, to the left is taking.
Right.
Removing, okay? Oh, so the vortex vibrates to the left because it wants to absorb the energy which it needs, okay? The pendulum comes and it starts to rotate to the right because if you want it, I'm here to give it to you, all right? So there is a suction and there is a giving pendulum which emits the energy. Now, as this vortex takes, vortex also closes because, let's say, the liver needs less and less and less energy, and finally it closes because it's not a vortex like chakra, which works constantly. It's just a vortex which is like an emergency situation vortex, all right? So it closes because now liver does not need any more energy, it's fine. That's another beauty of working with therapeutic pendulums, because you don't have to know how much.
Right.
The body responds, the body correlates or pendulum correlates its work according to body needs, respond to it, give the energy, vortex closes, pendulum stops, work is done, we can go further, okay?
Yes.
So coming back to white light, an aversion to wearing white indicates people with an inability to accept spirituality as a part of their lives. And of course, it's not none of us is this case, but you can see people. It's not about that, oh, I like to wear colorful clothes. That's fine. But if you will give someone a white shirt and they say, or blouse, and they will say, no, 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 everything but white. I really dislike white. I don't want to wear white. That's the person which falls into this category, right?
Yes.
So this is white light. And now pendulum which radiates white light are, like we said, Isis, Renova, which I showed you a moment ago, and Mer Isis, which is very good pendulum to release pain, even severe pain, and Nova, which is small but nice pendulum, round ones, Osiris and Karnak. And you mentioned those two, and we can mention it when we finish those presentations, but they still have white light in it. But on the top of white light, they are able also release negative green, which in this case plays a role of carrier wave. It carries the other frequencies from here to there, right? But we will come back to it in a moment. Okay, so imagine that you are this white being inside in the vastness of the universe, which I see as a blue, let's say, and then you are surrounded with this gold light, which we can create, but many of us do not. And again, I'm not talking about the listener to this channel, because evidently you are there, but average Joe on the street may not have it. The gold light is created by the heart. If it's really, really based on love, and the person can also love what is unloved, things which you hate. If I hate it, then well, then find something, some reason to love it. You don't have to be with this person every day, you know, in friendly relationship, but do not hate. And pineal gland, that's the second part. That's why now, in nowadays, we have this fight for people decalcifying, the pineal gland, because some forces are doing everything possible to keep it calcified so it will not emit the gold light. As you can see, this white around, this gold around, it's like an not an aura, but the halo behind the head of saints. For example, in Christian belief system. So now let's go to gold. Really, the problem is that science did not yet were interested, or for some reason didn't release the information about the frequency of gold in a sense of vibration. We know that material gold has a resonant frequency of 1,729 megahertz, which is extremely high, which is 45,000 times stronger than typical earth field strength. See, that's why it is so important for Mother Earth not to lose so much gold, which is in her, even material gold, because it vibrates and it gets to us. So, and it influences us. So we shouldn't really dig too much of the gold from the earth, at least leave some decent amount of there. So we will have better connection with higher dimensions. And then let's underline a little bit the frequency of gold. So that is, of course, the highest vibration known today. It's sign of divine deep wisdom. It is radiated by material gold coming into the resonance with spiritual aspect of us, which means every piece of gold which you wear, really, I know that for people from India, because I was teaching in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, and when I wanted to buy my mother a bracelet, and I came to the store and I was asking for 18 karat gold, which here is it's considered a high content of gold. They looked at me like I was dropped from the other planet, and they said 18, and like, with this, really. And I realized that 22, we are talking gold. 24, well, even 18 is too soft to do, for example, Atlantis ring, because it is very soft. But if you wear a lot of gold, it will definitely increase your vibrations by the emission of this frequency into your energy field, into your subtle bodies, and it will definitely resonate with spiritual aspect of each of us, and it transmutes toxic energies into beneficial ones. And also it's beneficial for skin and skeletal rejuvenation, and that's why in ancient China, actually until today, but it began in ancient China, women would swallow the pills which were covered by golden leaves to have this, because they didn't know dowsing. So people didn't know how to introduce this vibration to themselves and to their energy field other than by swallowing it and having it inside. So now it can vibrate inside me and get outside. Now with the pendulums which radiate gold, we know how to do it. And then this is interesting for those of you who are interested in healing yourself or others, that it is perceived as gold by healthy people and as warm by the sick. So if someone will tell you, oh, it's gold, but it feels like really cold, I thought it would be warm and pleasant. It means that they are simply healthy and they really do not need much of it. Or spiritually advanced. But most people feel warm because they need it, either because they are sick or because it's time for them to jump spiritually. They take this leap of faith and go higher with their personal vibrations. So let's look into pendulums which radiate gold. And pendulum radiate gold are Atlantis, Super Isis 16. There is also 16E version, which is slightly smaller and slightly lighter. E version is for, E stands for Egyptian. It's Egyptian version.
I see.
And then golden hue. Now, please do remember that pendulum which release gold light, and many things which release gold light, do not have to be gold, made of gold. It would be extremely expensive to make like pendulum like this, that size, in gold. But it's because the shape is based on golden proportion, which means based on principles of sacred geometry, they release gold light. Like the previous one, they are based on other principles of sacred geometry, and therefore they release white. Gold has white in it because it has everything what is below it. So if you will decide to have pendulum which radiate golden light, then you will have automatically white light in it. However, many people like to have one white, one gold pendulum. The pendulum, which is made of brass, basic, like you presented, Dr. Prabal, but it's covered by gold, which means plated, gold plated. They cannot release gold light because it's simple mathematics. See how much brass you have there and how much gold is used to plate it with. Okay, so even though vibration of gold is higher, represents higher frequency, it still deals with big chunk of brass, which also radiated overrides the vibration of very thin layer of gold, all right? So that's why gold-plated products are not as expensive as gold products, because it is not the same. And I actually made a video about it to show people the vibration of different objects, actually jewelry pieces, which are made of gold and not gold, even if they are gold plated. So, for example, I took the Atlantis pendulum as an example because there is Atlantis ring, which is relatively popular. So what you have here is, because this symbol here is also put on a ring, as you can see, all right? It's the same symbol. So what you can see here is those two bulbs of white light radiate from the shape, from those three rings, three barriers, and it represents three rings of water on Atlantis. And then at the back there is this ball, which is, if you can see, there is a break on the ring at the back, which allows the energy to go into your body. Okay, when you use, whoops, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Sorry. So when we go, this energy can go into your body. And that's why people say that it's a healing pendulum, it's a healing ring. No, it's not healing ring. It's really protection, because this creates a protective shield around it. As you can see, it creates more energy and so on. But it also has this healing aspect, which means it protects you from inside as much as from outside. Now, for example, golden hue, that's my aura before I took the aura picture. And then you see here, after I took this picture, you see my representation of my female energy, representation of my male energy. And then you can see those, my friends who helped me in life, which are here more individualized just because they are more potent to present themselves, right?
Excellent.
So it's very interesting. If you really do the research on it, then you can understand this.
In the previous slide, you were showing the effect of this pendulum on your aura, on your masculine and feminine energy. And what did you try to say? Has the energy increased? Because people don't know about how to gather information from a Kirlian chart. So if you can just go on the slide, which was before this particular slide.
Oh, sure.
Just show that.
Absolutely.
One slide back. There was the next photo. Yes, yes. So I was asking,
okay.
what does this photo indicate? Is it is getting more clearer after what?
Yeah,
After
it
holding?
makes, yes, it makes those individual energies stronger so they can present themselves. And what you also can see here, which is interesting, is that it opens the heart chakra. So, and there is a stronger blue here, almost dark blue, almost navy blue, which helps me or anyone who uses this pendulum to open the heart and to speak their truth from their heart.
Excellent.
Because very often we not talk. If we will pay attention to people who talk right now, and I'm not talking about official newses when people are especially prepared to do it and so on. But when you listen to people discussing things and whatever in different programs, you very often see them either coughing or clearing their throat. It's because they do not say what they want to say. And this chakra is blocked.
Excellent.
And as they talk, I had my, telling the truth, I had a throat problem for the last 2 years. Just recently, it got cleared finally, but then I had this time when I didn't have it, and then it came back, and it, whatever. Just because not always we can say all what we know and what we would like people to know, but they are not open to it, and you have to crack open the door and then start to open and open and open, and it's slower process. So then you have this chakra blocked. Now here what we see is this chakra perfectly open, and this chakra open, heart open. So what's in my heart goes through my throat, and I speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, Miss Alicja. You said before and after. Before is understandable, after is also understandable. What has been done in between? Is somebody holding the golden pendulum? Is somebody performing?
Yes, absolutely. So I gave myself a treatment, very simple treatment, which means I was holding my hand, and my wavelength is 0 as well, so I can hold it whenever. But I was holding my hand and I said, supply me, Alicja Aratyn, with the frequency of gold to the highest possible level for my highest good.
Excellent. Understood.
And that's it. And you just wait until it stopped. I didn't want to say it when pendulum was rotating because, of course, it follows my intention. If I say stop, then it will stop. So I had to wait until it will finish.
Right.
So before I did this, and then after, if you want to do this, the Kirlian photography or a photo for your own needs, you can, but before you will take the second photo, wait at least half an hour, because if not, you may have all aura red, and you will say, well, this is not gold, this is not whatever. This is not about gold. This is about the action which takes place in your energy field, which has to reorganize itself, and the action is red, right? So before it will settle down, it needs some time. So at least half an hour break.
Understood.
And then I did the picture the day after and 2 days after and so on, and it fades out slowly. Of course, we have to remember this. And let me just finish with this, so we will go, then we will have a few minutes of discussion. So the same Max Planck said at some point that science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature. This is because in last analysis, we ourselves lives are a part of the mystery we are trying to solve. Always remember this. That's why doctors do not perform surgeries on the family members. That's why healing yourself is the worst possible, thing you can do, because it simply is very, very hard, because you are emotionally and spiritually involved in it.
Excellent.
So just to remind you that we will have this special if you want. If you want just to join us, those are the things which you join. I also run a scientific dowsing group, which means once a month, and you can go on our website and from contact us, send me an email that you want to join the group, and you will be with us. So let's stop sharing, and we can now talk a little about what we have done. I guess we overdid the time which was meant for this meeting.
No, excellent.
But the topics we're talking about are so huge that it's very, very hard to close them in few words, especially that it is our first interaction, so we don't know each other, and I don't know how far in detail should I go with explanation.
No, it was an excellent presentation. And
But to tell you one more thing, because people often ask me, okay, so what should I do? Is it better to use white light or gold light? What pendulum should I have if I want to have one pendulum? I would say gold, because you have more. It's always better to have more options than less. But why golden light pendulums are popular? We started to make them about 10 to 15 years ago. Before that, there were only pendulums operating on white light, because the therapeutic pendulums in Europe, they were unknown here. The therapeutic pendulums in Europe were used only for healing physical conditions. Now imagine our body. We are mostly, even following chakra system, we are mostly built of visible spectrum of light, which means those 7 colors. Yes? We have other vibration in us as well, but mainly those 7 colors. This is white light. Now, therefore, to rebuild, when we are sick, where anyone has a health condition, it means that the part of their body is lacking, from spiritual point of view, is lacking light. And it starts to rot. Because in darkness, everything rots, everything ferments and rots. So it becomes rotten in a sense, right? Therefore, again, it's dowsing and spirituality. I know that there is many other explanation of it and so on. I'm talking about the vibrational aspect of it, okay? So if we will deliver white light to this part, we can rejuvenate, we can enlighten it and rebuild it. So imagine that that's our frequency, that's our body, and we vibrate like this. When we come to this with white light, then we go like this, we deliver those building blocks which were missed in this organ, this part of the body or something, and therefore we become whole again. Okay. Right? And if this is still us, and we come from the golden frequency, which is higher, not superior, but higher than, then we can give this, but we also shine on everything, on whole person, and lift it a little bit, because every sickness, every health condition is for us the opportunity to go higher, which people call learning from the sickness, right? This golden light around is to give us the chance to just take this leap of faith and go a little bit higher in our personal frequency.
Excellent. Excellent, Miss. See, the point is that in the presentation, what was really taking me, which was very nice, standing out, was that for every little thing which you said, you also showed some kind of proof with the help of Kirlian photography. And I think the people who will see the video will understand why they say in the books that once you have this Karnak and you just want to keep it in the pocket, you must unscrew it and then keep it, because you showed that even if it is lying on the table, it is emitting some kind of energy.
Absolutely.
Because it is based on geometry. So this is one important takeaway from the very first part of the presentation which you gave today. I think it will benefit a lot of people who are new.
But there are only two pendulums which you need to disconnect. It's Karnak and Osiris.
Yeah, so this is the Karnak one for those of.
Thank you, because I didn't take them with me.
Yeah.
Karnak and Osiris. Why is it so important to disconnect them? Is because they, as we said, they radiate also the negative green. And this is predominant vibration on this, because it will become a carrier wave to take it from here to there. In order to dismantle this ability of pendulum, we have to disconnect the shape. But the other therapeutic pendulums, which radiate only white light or only gold light, yes, you just disconnect the Osiris in the middle. So for other therapeutic pendulums, you are not disconnecting them. Yeah. You are holding them actually full, connected, even if you can disconnect them, because they will radiate it from your desk, from your pocket, from your purse, whenever you will hold it. Okay, when you are sick, you can put it on your nightstand. The pendulum, I normally use big Atlantis, but you can also use larger size, but Isis. Put it on the table nightstand, and it will vibrate the energy to you.
Excellent.
This
is a wonderful, wonderful idea coming from you.
Yes.
And then you also said at the last part, when you were discussing about whether one should use a white light pendulum or a golden light pendulum, that, people have started manufacturing and knowing more about the golden light pendulum only in the past 15, 20 years. And that is why we see more of the white light pendulums than the golden light emitting pendulums. Now, my point is, since a large amount of information is not available on the golden light pendulums, when we buy a pendulum, we try to check it on a radiesthetic chart as to what vibration this particular pendulum is emitting. So suppose this is supposed to emit a white light, but it is not, and it is emitting, say, black or infrared, then we don't use it. We just throw this out because it will not solve our purpose. Now, my point is, in that particular chart, the radiesthetic chart, which the dowsers around the world use, there is no portion of the chart ascribed to the golden color. How do sorry?
Because gold, nature hid the gold from us.
Okay.
We don't have access to gold to detect gold frequency as easy as we can red or whatever, or this. Why it happens, I have no idea why it is.
No problem. We will leave this. We will leave this. So that whenever we want to ask, we'll just ask, is this emitting a golden light? Yes or no? And that will be our yardstick to check whether a particular pendulum is emitting the golden light or not.
I'm not sure, because telling the truth, I'm not sure. Not that I know, but I'm not sure, because you see, if you talk about let's say algebra to first grade student, and you will say, let's do algebra. And even if they say, yes, let's do it, they have no bloody idea what they are talking about.
Right.
So the pendulum, which does not have this ability, may not know what it is, what you are talking about. And it may say, yes, of course. But so now it waits to tell you, what would you like to do? Because I don't understand you.
No, we can always, body dowse it through a neutral kind of a pendulum, whether a particular pendulum emits what it is supposed to emit. This is the only option which is left when you are in darkness.
Not really. Not really. What you can do is, now, this is 18 karat gold. I know it may make you laugh, but it's gold which we use, okay? And for this, to create a shape which will not fail, it has to be 18 max, because otherwise it's too soft and it will break, kind of the shape. So what you can do is you can put the piece of gold here, and then your pendulum here. I've never done it. And your pendulum here. This will be new for me as well. Okay. So this knows what gold is. This doesn't know what gold is. Okay? And then you take the third pendulum. Doesn't matter which one, because this pendulum, and I'm taking Renova, which is white light pendulum. And because it is an indicator, it's not a pendulum which radiates at that moment. We don't use it for this. We use it for to show us, and you can hold it there in between and say, I'm checking compatibility. When you check compatibility, you can check compatibility of metals. Or no, vibrational compatibility. Oh, because you have to be precise, since if that will be here, some other ring, then it can say, yes, it's the same, because this is ring and this is ring. So I'm checking vibrational compatibility. And it moves to read the energy of both. And then it starts to oscillate, which means it creates the shield between this and this. It divides it, which means they are not of the same vibration.
Oh.
Right? Now, if I will put that's what checking compatibility, one of the aspects of checking compatibility. Now, this is golden light pendulum. Golden hue, and I will put, this is white light pendulum, so it doesn't know anything. I just will say, I'm checking. You see, it right away connects them very strongly, as you can see.
Yeah, excellent.
Right? So if you would like to compare something, have at least one thing which you are sure they represent what you want to check. Because asking question, and I have this video, I know it's not popular on the West and maybe farther on the East that we are, but the way I was trained is never, if you don't have to, don't ask questions, use statement. Yes. So that's why I'm saying I'm checking compatibility, or I am healthy, or my liver is healthy. You still have yes and no, but it is a confirmation of your statement or a lack of confirmation of your statement. Right. But your brain is not in such a need to search for the answer. and you have less chance on influence your pendulum. I made this video on my YouTube channel, which is called answer question versus statement, or something like that.
I have seen that.
If you will have at least one thing which you know which you are sure of vibration of, one object, and then the object of unknown, and you put the pendulum in between, then it will either connect and it will say, yes, those are the same, or no, I divide you because don't get mistaken, this is not this vibrationally. It may be the same shape.
The same can be done with two photographs also. A boyfriend and girlfriend.
Unfortunately, yes.
It gave me an idea.
Unfortunately for many people, it is. And
okay.
Sometimes, you know, well, I'm not sure.
Okay, don't let
if
me
I should say that, but sometimes when owners of the companies are aware of that, they can check if the person is compatible with their company, their goals, their ideas, before they will hire someone.
Yes.
You can check compatibility of girl and a boy if they are compatible. But this is another topic, because they can be compatible on one level and not compatible on the other, which will, someone can be compatible with alcohol.
Right.
Because he likes it.
So let me not digress. I will not take more of your time today.
Yes. Okay.
I will just ask one last question. To come back to our topic of the white versus the golden light. Now, last question is just concerning the white light. Now, when we have this radiesthetic chart, in the invisible spectrum, we do have the negative green, and we also have the white color. And when you talk about the white light emitting pendulums, you talk about pendulums which are emitting the whole spectrum of the visible white. To a person.
And negative green is not a part of visible spectrum of light.
Right. So to a new person, there is single word white. One white is what you are talking about, which has all the 7 colors. And the other white is the white which is there on the radiesthetic chart. That is the white which probably this ISIS is supposed to emit in order to heal.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you just clarify or differentiate or find, are these 2 whites you are talking about? Are this one white only? Anything which comes to you?
There is only one light, one white light.
So this is emitting white light. Okay.
Yes.
On the radiesthetic chart, it will come towards the white, which falls in the invisible spectrum of light. Okay.
Yes.
Now, but you did also say that the white which is emitting has all the 7 colors, because white is supposed to have all the 7 colors in it. So a person gets a little confused whether now we are talking
the white
visible spectrum or we are
white. Okay, the white is a mixture of all. When you put them together, so for example, imagine a rainbow.
Yeah. I agree.
It has 7 colors. When you push it, when you force it and squeeze it, it will become light and it's invisible.
Okay, so white then becomes invisible.
Excuse me?
So then when everything is mixed up, that white thing becomes invisible. And that is why it falls in the
That's right.
spectrum.
And this white is only white because it's chemically processed. White light is, right now, it's a morning in my place. White light is outside. I can see all the colors through white light. White light on the spectrum of light, on the circle, I can bring it next time to show you. white light belongs to invisible spectrum of light.
Yes, yes. And one of
Right.
you did show also.
Now, yes, if we want to have a white visible, we have to add something to make it visible. Okay, and it's a chemical process. And we have you have white shirt, I think I have white blouse, and so on and so on. But imagine humongous, high power, one moment, let me take this aside. Imagine big, high power cable, okay, which just run the electricity. When you will cut the cable, it has really small sub-cables inside, and many of them, because you cannot mix too much together, and one has to go this way, one has to go, that's physics. So everyone, people normally do not know those things. But what happens is, it's the same with light. If you will imagine, I don't have one white paper here. I will use this envelope. So if you will imagine that this is a white light, as this cable, right? Then you have a 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sub-bands here, okay? And this is indigo, blue, red, orange, whatever, okay? Oops, other side. Okay, yeah. So from this, I can say, I need only red, give me red. And it will therefore take this and pull down only this part of white light.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
what your question was about?
Yeah. So it is wonderful. The piece of information which you have shared today is something which is excellent and will go a long way in helping those who are in their journey to learn how to use the pendulum in order to cause healing to themselves and to their.
Always remember, either you have white light pendulum or gold light pendulum. If you work with human body or animal body or the three, plants in your house, whatever, you can request certain things like balance first chakra or balance red. It's not the same because there is many things, many parts of our body which operates on the frequency of red. That's right. Yes. If you want to balance chakra, you will limit yourself only to chakra. Why? Because you said so. You are the master of what's happening in your world. So if that is healing thing, then mostly white light is used to do the work. If there are traumas, if there are conflict, not non-physical thing, emotional disturbances, or simply spiritual advancement, then golden light will be better because it's, we can imagine that gold light goes penetrate into the cell and override everything what is wrong there. Maybe not at once, maybe not instantaneously, but day by day or treatment by treatment, it will do that. Because that's the nature of this light. It is not, oh, for her it works, for me it doesn't. It may not work 3 days and then boom, on fourth day, you see the amazing results. Never give up. And remember, I joke about it, that dowsing is contagious. if you know more, and Aquarius age is an age of knowledge. So that's why your work is so important right now. People want to know.
Yeah.
And when we know more, we fear less.
That's right. Very, very.
And absolutely, what kills us and many people over the last 2 years is not necessarily the sickness, but the fear of the sickness and consequences.
Absolutely.
So let's deepen our knowledge, and we will be winners, because there is no other way.
In the past 6 months, at the hospital where I work, I've been getting people who did not suffer from the COVID virus, but they are just suffering from the aftermath of it. Somebody in their family,
Absolutely.
And after that, they are fearful. And now I have even having youngsters, 23, 24 years of age, lawyers, chartered accountants, younger people. They are so fearful, that they get panic attacks. Every day I'm dealing with so many people who have not suffered the actual illness, but just fear, pure sheer fear is just killing them.
Yes.
So I am very thankful, Miss Alicia,
and whoever creates
with us today.
I
have a lot to talk to you about, and I hope that I'll have this privilege of speaking with you again sometime when we talk about various aspects of healing, like healing with colors, like distance healing, and getting some more clarity on certain more issues in the world of pendulum healing. Thank you once again for being with us today. Thank you
very much. Thank you. Goodbye.